Chapter 15. Raen's Choice. Night had fallen, casting a suffocating silence over the Imperial Council Hall. The hunter has become the hunted. This is an embarrassment to the Empire. The Imperial Chancellor's voice was calm, devoid of any emotion, as he sat upon the high throne. His fingers tapped rhythmically against the armrest, his gaze sweeping over the assembled commanders of the Black Legion. The great hall was filled with officers who kept their heads bowed, each wary of provoking the man who wielded true power in the Empire, Night Owl. The Chancellor turned his piercing gaze toward the general standing below the steps, cloaked in a flowing black mantle. Night Owl lifted his head slightly, his expression dark and unreadable. "I am here." The Chancellor's voice remained steady. "You assured His Majesty that the rebels were nothing more than a rabble. Yet now, they are capable of hunting down the elite of the Black Legion." Night Owl lowered his head. "This failure is mine to bear." The Chancellor let out a cold scoff, then shifted his gaze to another man standing in silence. Raen, the Black Legion's vice commander, the Empire's sharpest blade. Raen's expression remained stoic, his face devoid of emotion as he awaited his orders. "Raen." The Chancellor's voice carried a weight of finality. "You will personally oversee this mission." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Even Night Owl's brows furrowed slightly. Raen lifted his gaze, his eyes deep and unreadable. He said nothing. The Chancellor continued. "The Black Legion will deploy at full force. You are to annihilate the rebels completely." Then, after a brief pause, he added, "Leave no survivors, especially Alya." The air in the great hall turned deathly still. Raen's fingers clenched ever so slightly. Alya. Her name struck him like the edge of a blade, piercing through his composure without warning. Silence stretched between them. At last, Raen spoke. "Understood." That night, in the Imperial war camp, Raen stood atop a tower, overlooking the vast ranks of the Black Legion assembling below. Thousands of elite warriors stood in disciplined formation, their black armor gleaming under the flickering torchlight, exuding a chilling aura of impending slaughter. His expression remained impassive, yet deep within him, a storm raged. Leave no survivors, especially Alya. The Empire's orders had always been ruthless. This was far from his first massacre. But this time was different. Was Alya truly just another rebel in the Empire's eyes? His thoughts drifted back to years past. She had once stood beneath the sunlight, her eyes burning with defiance, fragile, yet unwavering, so determined it was impossible to ignore. And now, she was their target, the enemy of the Empire. But was the Empire always right? Raen had witnessed firsthand how the Empire crushed all opposition, sacrificing innocents in the name of order. He had executed countless rebels with his own hands, but how many of them had simply been fighting to survive? If Alya was truly just a pawn of the Undead Legion, then why was the Empire so desperate to see her dead? A chilling thought crept into his mind. Alya was not the one being hunted. She was the one the Empire feared the most. Raen closed his eyes, his unwavering loyalty to the Empire beginning to fracture. Could he still obey without question? "You're hesitating." A low voice interrupted his thoughts. Raen opened his eyes and turned to see Night Owl standing in the shadows, his black cloak blending into the darkness. His gaze was sharp and unwavering. Raen did not deny it. His voice remained indifferent. "Did you come here for a reason?" Night Owl stepped forward, stopping beside him. His tone was unhurried but firm. "The Empire has given its command. We obey." Raen remained silent. Night Owl's eyes darkened. "Or is it that Alya is no longer just an enemy to you?" Raen met his gaze, his voice cold. "She is merely my target. Night Owl let out a quiet chuckle, though there was something dangerous beneath it. I hope so, because the Empire's orders are absolute. He turned away, his final words lingering in the night air. If you make the wrong choice, I will personally correct it. Raen watched as Night Owl's figure disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a chill that seeped into his bones. Beyond, the camp, the night stretched endlessly, deep and impenetrable. Raen stood alone at the edge of a cliff, the wind tearing through his cloak. He drew his sword from its sheath, the blade gleaming coldly beneath the moonlight. Alya, we will meet again. He slowly closed his eyes, his grip tightening around the hilt. The Black Legion was marching to exterminate the rebels, and he had to make a choice. If the Empire's command was just, he would not hesitate to cut her down. But if the Empire was wrong, his gaze lifted, a sharp, unreadable glint flashing in his eyes. Then he would uncover the truth himself, even if it meant standing against the Empire. The wind howled as he slowly raised his sword, murmuring softly, "Alya, we will meet again soon." The night was as dark as ink, and the Black Legion's camp lay in a silence as heavy as death. Raen walked alone through the dimly lit corridor, the metallic soles of his boots echoing against the cold stone floor. In his grip was a tightly clutched scroll, his fingertips turning pale from the force. This scroll had cost him greatly to obtain from the Empire's classified archives, the Undead Legion. Was it truly awakening? He had once dismissed it as mere rumor, but the words on this parchment made him realize perhaps the rumors were true. Back in his tent, Raen swiftly lit the candle on his desk and unrolled the scroll. The aged parchment, lined with dense, intricate script, revealed a chilling truth. Certain Imperial nobles were conducting secret undead experiments, attempting to awaken the long-sealed Undead Legion, a legion that had been completely sealed away 1,000 years ago, and now the Empire sought to bring it back? Raen's fingers traced over the cryptic words, his brows furrowing. Experiment Phase 7. Objective: construct an undead resonance core. The Dark Pact requires further refinement. Current test subjects fail to stabilize undead energy. Target codename: Pale Shadow. Unusual case, yet to be captured. Pale Shadow? Raen's eyes narrowed, his gaze locking onto the words. The Empire was hunting a specific test subject, one with no further details recorded. A deep unease settled in his chest. Was this Pale Shadow connected to the Empire's relentless pursuit of Alya? Yet the Empire's higher-ups had never disclosed this intelligence to him. What were they hiding? You're prying into things you shouldn't. A cold voice cut through the silence. Raen's pupils shrank. He swiftly rolled up the scroll, lifting, his gaze toward the tent's entrance. Night Owl stood there, his figure almost indistinguishable from the surrounding darkness. Raen's grip on the parchment loosened slightly, his tone unwavering. "What exactly are you trying to say?" Night Owl stepped forward, his piercing eyes fixed on Raen. His voice was deep and measured. "The secrets of the Undead Legion. Do you truly wish to keep digging?" Raen's expression remained unreadable. "You already knew?" Night Owl let out a quiet, knowing chuckle. "Of course." He moved closer, his gaze sweeping over the scroll that Raen had concealed. His voice carried a quiet menace. "But knowing too much is never a good thing." Raen said nothing, his eyes dark and unfathomable. Night Owl leaned in slightly, his sharp gaze unwavering. "The Empire gave you an order to eradicate the rebels, not to question it." Raen met his stare, his expression cold and impassive. After a pause, he spoke in a low voice. "Do you suspect me?" A smirk curled Night Owl's lips, though his smile held no warmth. "No, I'm merely reminding you, you are not allowed personal attachments. The temperature in the tent seemed to plummet. Raen remained silent for a long moment before finally lifting his gaze, his expression as sharp as a blade. The Empire's orders. I will carry them out. Night Owl studied him, searching his expression. After a moment, he let out a quiet chuckle and turned to leave. As he stepped out, he left Raen with one final sentence. I hope so. The tent fell silent once more. Raen stood there, watching Night Owl disappear into the night, his expression unreadable. A cold wind swept through the tent's entrance, causing the fabric to ripple. Slowly, Raen lowered his gaze and looked once more at the scroll in his hand. The Empire's orders. Should he still obey them? Who was Pale Shadow, really? The secrets of the Undead Legion, the Empire's hidden schemes, Alya's fate. All of it was beginning to shake his once unwavering resolve. For years, he had never doubted the Empire's will. But now, a new question plagued his mind. What if the Empire itself was wrong? His fingers tightened around the hilt of his sword, his thoughts a chaotic storm. This mission was no longer just about wiping out the rebels. It was the crossroads of his fate. Beneath the shroud of night, he made his decision. He would find Alya, and he would demand the truth from her own lips. Under the darkened sky, the glow of battle stained the horizon red. The air was thick with the stench of smoke and blood, turning the valley into a blazing hell. War drums thundered, and the deafening cries of battle filled the air. The Black Legion's ironclad hooves crushed the scorched earth beneath them as they advanced, step by step, toward the rebels' last line of defense. Amidst the battlefield, where death loomed over every soul, Alya stood her ground, sword in hand. Her long black hair whipped wildly in the fierce wind, and the ghostly blue aura of soul energy coiled around her fingertips like a phantom chain. Her gaze was calm, cold, detached from life and death. The enemy had completely surrounded her. The gleaming blades of their weapons reflected the raging fires, forming a net of steel that threatened to tear her apart at any moment. The attack came like an unrelenting tide. The first Black Legion soldier lunged forward, his great sword raised, high, slashing down toward Alya's head. Her eyes sharpened. With a swift step, she retreated, and the blade barely grazed the tip of her nose, carving a deep fissure into the ground. With a quick reversal, her sword struck cleanly, slicing through the soldier's throat. Blood spurted into the air. Before the body could even collapse, another soldier was already closing in, his spear thrusting forward with lightning speed. Alya dodged fluidly, her left hand surging with soul energy. With a flick of her wrist, a sharp blue arc slashed through the air, cutting the soldier in half at the waist. Her fighting style, it was no longer the same as before. Once, she relied on speed and precision. Now, she wielded raw, overwhelming power to tear through everything in her path. The surrounding Black Legion soldiers hesitated for a brief moment, a flicker of unease in their eyes. She's stronger than before. Yet, they did not retreat. The Black Legion was famed for its merciless discipline and unyielding resolve. More soldiers surged toward her. Blades flashed, swords clashed, and in the midst of it all, Alya weaved through the chaos like a specter, her sword a reaper's scythe, claiming life after life. Her hands were drenched in enemy blood. Her black cloak was torn from battle. Her eyes colder than ever, like a demon of war. But she knew the truth. If this continued, she would die. No matter how many she killed, the enemy kept coming. The Black Legion fought with precision and unity. No matter how strong she had become, she was still alone. Then, a powerful presence surged toward her. Alya reacted instinctively, flipping backward just as a colossal great sword slammed into the ground where she had stood. The force of the impact cracked the earth, sending shards of stone flying. She lifted her gaze. A Black Legion officer slowly raised his greatsword. His eyes locked onto her. "Alya, traitor of the Empire, your time is up." His voice was steady and ice-cold, filled with an unwavering killing intent. Alya took a deep breath, tightening her grip on her sword. The real battle was only beginning. Blood and fire intertwined across the battlefield. Corpses lay scattered. Cries of agony rang through the valley. From the cliffs above, Raen stood silently, gazing down at the slaughter. His eyes never left Alya. She moved through the blood-soaked battlefield with ghostly grace, her every strike precise and lethal. But her soul energy, it was surging out of control, growing stronger with each moment. A terrifying, almost unnatural power coursed through. Her Raen's pupils contracted slightly. She was no longer the girl who once needed protection. Once, she had been a hunted fugitive. But now, she had become a warrior strong enough to shake the very foundation of the Black Legion. But how? How had she grown so powerful in such a short time? Raen's fingers unconsciously brushed the hilt of his sword, his brows furrowing. If she continued to evolve like this, would she become the Empire's greatest threat? A shadow of hesitation flickered in his heart. "General!" A Black Legion soldier rushed up behind him, dropping to one knee. "The rebels are falling back. Alya is still fighting, but we need your orders. Do we eliminate her completely, or—" Raen was silent for a moment. Then, his voice came, steady and unwavering. "Encircle her." The soldier nodded and swiftly relayed the command. Yet Raen remained where he stood, his gaze locked onto Alya. "Alya, what are you to me now?" He did not have an answer. But tonight, his decision would change everything. The rebel defenses had completely collapsed. The Black Legion surged into the valley like a flood. Blades gleamed. Firelight danced upon the countless bodies strewn across the ground. Alya's strength was waning. Her soul energy had been drained through the relentless battle. Every swing of her sword sent sharp pain through her torn muscles. She scanned her surroundings. There was no escape. The Black Legion had sealed off every path. No way out. And then, a flicker of hope. A hidden path. Barely visible but unguarded. Alya's heart clenched. Was it a trap? She had no time to doubt. Forcing her exhausted body forward, she ran toward that narrow passage. From the high cliffs, Raen watched her flee. His gaze remained unreadable, but in its depths, something flickered, something undecipherable. Because he had already made his choice. Moonlight filtered through the lingering smoke of battle, casting a pale glow over the war-torn field. Tattered banners swayed in the wind, while shattered blades and lifeless bodies lay scattered in pools of blood. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and death. The rebel soldiers staggered as they retreated, their armor soaked in blood, some their own, some their comrades'. Many could barely stand, leaning on one another as they struggled forward, exhaustion weighing down their every step. At the front of the group, Alya walked in silence, fingers clenched tightly around the hilt of her sword. Sweat dampened her palms, and though her breath came in quick, shallow gasps, she forced herself to remain steady. The wound on her chest throbbed with pain, but what unsettled her more than the agony was the fact that they had escaped at all. The Black Legion's assault had been relentless, overwhelming. From the very start, they had been pushed to the brink of annihilation. Yet in that most crucial moment, the Legion's offensive had suddenly weakened. They had the power to wipe out the rebels completely, and yet they had let them go. Was it a mere coincidence? Or had someone deliberately orchestrated this outcome? Alya lifted her gaze, looking past the blood-soaked battlefield toward the distant hillside. There, standing before the Black Legion's ranks, was Raen. His black cloak billowed in the night wind, and the silver sheen of his armor gleamed coldly under the firelight. A sword rested in his grip, its blade still stained with fresh blood, but he had never personally entered the fight. Alya's heart clenched. At last she understood. Raen had never struck a killing blow. Not once. And more than that, his forces, in those final moments, had left openings on purpose. Her eyes locked onto his across the distance. In that instant, time seemed to stop. The cacophony of war, the battle cries, the clash of steel, the crackling flames, all of it faded into the background, leaving only the silent gaze they shared. Alya's expression darkened. Suspicion, wariness, and an unsettling trace of unease flickered in her eyes. She did not want to believe it, but her instincts whispered the truth. Raen was not as ruthless as he appeared to be, and yet his expression remained unreadable, calm, impassive. There was no hostility in his gaze, nor was there warmth. It was as if he were waiting for something, for a moment that would change everything. Alya's breath hitched, and a cold sense of foreboding coiled around her heart. "Raen, what are you planning?" "General, shall we pursue them?" A Black Legion officer approached Raen, speaking in a low, urgent tone. Raen did not answer immediately. His gaze remained fixed on Alya's retreating figure, unwavering. His eyes narrowed slightly. If he gave the order now, the Black Legion could overtake the rebels in mere hours, crushing them completely, but he did not speak. "Alya, have you realized it yet?" Raen's fingers brushed against the hilt of his sword, a flicker of indecision glinting in his eyes. He did not regret his choice. From the moment he had commanded his forces to leave a path open for the rebels, this battle's conclusion had already been sealed. But still, was she truly worth such a decision? Closing his eyes briefly, he tapped, his fingers lightly against his sword, as if weighing the answer. Then finally he spoke. "There's no need." The officer hesitated. "General?" Raen opened his eyes, his gaze unfathomable. "Let them go." The officer stiffened. "But the royal orders..." "The royal orders are mine to carry out," Raen said, his voice steady. "Absolute. A command, not a suggestion." The officer clenched his jaw, but dared not question him further. Raen watched as Alya disappeared into the night. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. "Alya, we will meet again soon." His whisper faded into the wind, and in the distance, Alya felt a chill crawl down her spine, as if an invisible net was slowly closing in around her. Her grip on her sword tightened. She knew, with absolute certainty, this battle was far from over. The real game was only just beginning.